What is the purpose to life? I've had this question literally hundreds of times through all the sessions I've done with people through readings and stuff like that. A lot of people actually don't understand the question in itself or try to come at it from a place where it's something that I achieve, something I get, something that I have, something I overcome. It's like a job, a career, a relationship. It's something that I have that's external to me. And that unfortunately keeps us in this a loop of suffering most of the time. So what I've learned over all my time is, reading people by studying into human behavior, influence, the psychic stuff. I've come to a realization a long time ago that most people had that question incorrect. Most people were looking at it from the completely wrong purpose, and when they were looking at it from a place of trying to get something or something external, then they would continue the place where they would naturally suffer through life because they were on this loop of having to kind of keep trying to achieve something that was outside of them that gave them the sense of, well, that's my purpose. And when I was, yeah, again, with my clients and the ones that the people I used to read for, I used to say, life, the question itself is rather simple. The answer in itself is also rather simple, but it's not something that's actually, of a space, well known or understood by a lot of people. So I have a little of a process or a program I have, which is called the architecture experience. And in that, I go into what the purpose of life is. Now, the purpose of life is life itself. You're here to have the human experience. You're here to have everything that the human experience offers. And that includes all the emotions. So when I say to people this, they kind of look at me a little bit, are you sure about that, Greg? It's like, yes, I'm sure. The purpose of life in itself is to be human and have the human experience and go through an experience and feel all the human emotions through the things that we create through experience. Now, that's very counterintuitive to the way that most of the world works. Most of the place that we work about high performance, it's about what we can get, our goals, things we get, like our bank balance or um, certain things we overcome. Like I said before, a lot of us tied around some kind of financial gain. That we have these possessions, that's some kind of, I've achieved my purpose by doing this. And it's like, no, that will keep you in a place that's quite sad for most of your life because humans don't do that. Like humans themselves, we have a goal, we get there, and then we look for the next goal, the next goal, the next goal, and it keeps us in this loop of trying to find the next goal to find this fulfillment in a way that is somewhere outside of us. So when you start to shift your perspective about what life is actually about, the whole game changes for you. And that's the whole idea of this channel that I'm restarting in the space is I'm going to help share with you the aspects of life and the aspects of the human experience that pertain to where you are right now and how do I have that, I suppose, the psychological, the biological, and the spiritual perspective behind all of that stuff through all the things that I've learned through all my years of studying human behavior and the psychic world and the spiritual world and combine that together into one sort of way. Chasing purpose externally creates a lot of depression, creates a lot of sadness, creates a lot of misalignment for people, and the world in itself, promotes that. And we think that by getting this is going to give us some kind of happiness in a way, and it doesn't. So when you shift just this one awareness to the point that the experience of life itself is to feel every single human emotion, to have an experience that allows you to feel it, and then on top of that, have a perspective. What is the story that creates? Which then allows us to step into a world of, well, if this opportunity and this feeling gives me a certain perspective, What does that allow me to experience? Not learn, but experience. And through that experience, who do I get to become? Now, if you actually take that and look at your current situation and that question, it's a very, very deep perspective to what's going on, because most people look at the surface of stuff and go, well, I've got a problem here and I need to do this to solve this problem. And again, that doesn't necessarily relate to solving the problem you're looking at, because um, again, most therapy fails. Like 70, 80% of therapy actually fails because you're trying to solve problems at the surface level. So hence why I'm sharing this in a certain way now, that the the real esoteric and psychological deep um, truths, let's call it that, allow a different aspect of the way that you see the world. And if you start to see the world as the purpose of life itself is experience, and to feel every single human emotion, and then to not suppress that, and every emotion is in a way an opportunity for you to be able to explore the human construct, then your life takes a different aspect to it. Your life takes a different meaning, because all of a sudden you're looking internally, you're not looking externally. And when you start to look internally, you start to align your life in a way that, a few people do. Most people are chasing something externally to try and solve an internal problem, which then obviously creates most of the issues that most people are in. And so, so when I look at most people, when they ask that question about purpose, some people get it. Some people just don't want to hear it because they want to go down the path of, I've got more goals, I've got more things to achieve. I want to, get this, have this, achieve this, new house or new job or new career, or get this relationship. And I get that, because that's the way society says that they will give you fulfillment or freedom or some kind of feeling of safety. Like, if I have this job, this money, and this relationship, I'm going to feel happy. Now, I can tell you there's a lot of people, a lot of rich people out there who have that and are miserable. And so, so you need to take a different aspect to life in itself, because if you're trying to play a finite game in an infinite game, you're going to get it wrong. And it's the whole Simon Sinek stuff, right? Life is an infinite game. You cannot win it. You can only experience it. And most people are trying to play life as a finite game that you can win. And that's just not how it happens. So by switching to the part where you kind of step back and go, okay, if life is about experience itself, if the purpose of life is about experience and every single human emotion, then if I'm feeling sadness or depression or grief or melancholy, or some of the negative stuff that we try and tend to avoid, then it gives you permission to go there. It gives you permission to actually feel that, and then look deeper into the place of, well, what is this giving me the opportunity to explore? Because quite often from those places, an aspect from you actually grows from that. And that's the point, is that exploring those emotions is the way through it, not to suppress it, not to label it as being wrong, not to be able to say, well, I don't want this. It's like, it ain't going away. Your role here and the purpose of it is to explore it and to see it for what it really is, not the surface level stuff. And that can be quite challenging for a lot of people, but the people who really do, make a massive shift in life is because they take this version. They take this opportunity to see for what it really is. Like, if you're in a relationship where your partner, you feel like your partner's not listening to you, or you're not having the communication, that opportunity, you may be feeling, alone, you may be feeling unheard, you may be feeling unseen, and they're all negative emotions or feelings. That opportunity, you can go in the path of looking at all the communication styles and techniques and date nights and love languages and all that kind of crap that's out there. Or you can look at it and go, well, I'm feeling this, but this allows me to be able to step up in the relationship and look at, maybe, what am I bringing to the relationship? Where am I disconnected? Where am I mirroring this stuff? Am I in a place where I'm transactional in the relationship where I go, well, I'll only do this if they do that? It gives you the opportunity to actually understand, where your trauma is from that place about why you attracted that kind of partner in the first place. It also allows you to be able to have conversations you might be avoiding. Okay. So it's not necessarily what you think on the surface. So if you look at some of the stuff that's happening in your life, you can understand that the exploration of the feeling is a very important part. And too many people try to avoid it. They try and fix it. They try and actually label it as a problem that has a intellectual or a system or process step. That if I do this, it will solve it. And quite often, and in majority of cases, it's not. So if you're looking at some mystical, esoteric, or intellectual thing about what's my purpose in life, it is to live it. It is to experience it. It's to experience every single aspect of being human, the good, the bad, the ugly, the joyful, all of that kind of stuff. Your job is to actually go and have a full experience in the whole lot. And unfortunately, we love the good stuff, but we try and avoid the negative, or what we would call the negative or the lower vibrational emotions. And the positive stuff give you just as much as the negative. And when you actually have that perspective change and you look at it and go, well, let me go into this, let me really feel that, and you give yourself permission to feel it without any judgment, you'll find there are places you go to that give you insight that very few people have normally access to. So, as I said, the relaunch of this channel is about helping people to see a whole different aspect of why we're here. And this is not a channel you're going to get 7 steps to this or a list of things to fix your situation. I'm going to give you some really deep um, human behavior and esoteric and spiritual principles here that you can understand, have some insight towards, and you can actually, try them out in your life, but you're not going to get an intellectual kind of, here's 5 steps to fix your problem, right? Because quite often that stuff is not necessarily correct or doesn't solve your problem. My job is to give you real deep insight as what I do with my very few clients that I do see as to what makes actually real profound change in people's lives and not at the service level, right? This is something that will give you an opportunity to really change some things in some major ways. And one of them is to start with that. Is that's why I coined a book that's in draft at the moment, the architecture of experience, is because yes, life itself is pure experience. And the more that you actually understand that, the more it actually sets you free. Because you no longer look at the place where you avoid the negative, you look at it and you go through it and you see it for what it is. And you're not afraid to actually feel that. And that's the big thing, is that most people are afraid to feel the negative emotion, and we try and avoid it. And we try and get around it. We try and bypass it in any which way possible, or we get stuck in it and we loop around and around and around and around in this negativity that we see we can't get out of. And my job is to guide you through that, is that there's a pathway through that, but it does take you to have some awareness. And one of the big things, I want to be able to share with you is the ability to have, awareness, to have insight, to tap into some intuition and to see, what's really going on behind or inside that head of yours as to this stuff's not working in my life, the reasons why. So the purpose of life is life. The purpose of life is experience. The purpose of life is to feel every single human emotion on, opposite ends of everything. That is the real purpose of it. And when you see it from that point of view, then a lot can change. A hell of a lot can change, because all of a sudden you stop chasing stuff externally to try and fill a void inside of you that you cannot feed. And society wants to keep you there, wants to keep you setting goals and trying to chase things, because it keeps you in, fear that, at that stage you can be easily manipulated. So sit back and just Think about it. Have a real think about, okay, if I was to take this tact and go, okay, well, what is this opportunity giving me or this situation giving me the opportunity to experience? One of the big questions, have a, don't think logically about this. Think from your heart. What is this situation giving me the opportunity to explore? What is this situation giving me the opportunity to become as a human? They're some of the bigger questions. And it's all you do is have to ask those two simple questions. And if you're aware enough or in touch with something inside of you enough, you'll get a whole different answer to what you're thinking on the outside, because the outside stuff is driven from fear a lot of the times. And if you can step away from fear and tap into this, you become a place which is, you can't be manipulated, you can't be controlled. And that's a place you want to be in. And life opens up for you in ways that are very, very, very special. So, purpose, experience. And if you can understand that, there's your first step into a whole new world.